As Amane, Mahiru, Itsuki, and Chito sat together around the coffee table, they discussed Mahiru's status as Amane's neighbor, and how Itsuki found it perplexing that Amane didn't seem to have romantic feelings for her. Itsuki considered Mahiru to be like Amane's wife in training, but Mahiru and Amane refuted this suggestion. Amane then requested that Itsuki and Chitose keep quiet about their relationship, and the two agreed. Chitose proceeded to shower Mahiru with compliments, which Amane interrupted when Chitose overstepped Mahiru's boundaries. After apologizing, Chitose asked Mahiru if they could be friends, and Mahiru accepted the offer. The conversation then shifted to Mahiru's passion for cooking, which Chitose revealed she shared as well. After their encounter with Chitose and Itsuki, Amane apologizes to Mahiru, but she brushes it off. Mahiru then steps out briefly to retrieve some beef stew she has prepared, promising to treat Amane to the dish for lunch the next day. As they savor their meal together, Amane asks Mahiru about her cooking skills and learns that she was taught by her caretaker, who instilled in her the idea that preparing delicious food is a way to show appreciation for someone special. Mahiru admits that she still has much to learn, but Amane finds her cooking impressive nonetheless. They share a touching moment before parting ways, making plans to hang out again the next day and indulge in lunch and video games. The following day, they enjoy their lunch and a game of Mahiru's choice, but Amane gets a little too involved in the game and accidentally touches her. He apologizes, but Mahiru doesn't mind. Later, while playing a racing game, Mahiru leans over in real life as she takes a sharp turn in the game, tumbling into Amane's lap. Despite being embarrassed, Mahiru laughs it off and Amane thinks nothing of it. That night, Mahiru emerges victorious in the racing game, and Amane congratulates her with a special Christmas present, a key case to hold the spare key he gave her for his apartment. Mahiru expresses her gratitude and reveals that Amane's mother once sent her a picture of him looking all dapper. After exchanging gifts, Mahiru gifts Amane with a thick black scarf, which leads to a tender moment between them. Mahiru steps out onto the balcony, and Amane, noticing that she's feeling cold, drapes his jacket around her. They spend the rest of the night talking and enjoying each other's company. The next day, Mahiru appears to be under the weather, but she denies having a cold when Amane asks. He checks her temperature and discovers that she has a minor fever, urging her to rest until she feels better. Mahiru ends up spending the day in Amane's room, resting on his bed while he tends to her needs. The next day, Amane visits Mahiru to check on her condition. Although she admits to feeling a bit groggy, she assures him that she feels better than the previous day. Concerned for her well-being, Amane decides to stay and keep her company until she falls asleep. As they talk, Amane admits to Mahiru that being around her is bad for his heart, revealing his feelings for her. On New Year's Day, Amane and Mahiru are glued to the television watching Buddhist monks ring the temple bell, marking the start of a new year. Afterward, they check their phones and respond to some New Year's texts, one of which is from Amane's father, asking if they could visit in a few days. Amane agrees, but when he tries to tell Mahiru, she falls asleep on his shoulder. He assumes that she's tired from preparing their New Year's dinner, but when he tries to wake her up, she remains asleep. Amane decides to let her sleep on his bed, while he sleeps on the couch. The next morning, Amane wakes up to find Mahiru still asleep and gently wakes her up. In a cute moment, Mahiru asks if Amane likes touching her cheeks when she's asleep. As time goes by, Shihoko and Shudo, Amane's parents, visit his apartment, and Mahiru is reintroduced to Shihoko. Shudo then introduces himself to Mahiru and expresses his gratitude for taking care of his son. Later, the group sits together and discusses their plans, and Shihoko asks if they visited the shrine yet, to which Amane replies in the negative. Shihoko is pleased to hear this and suggests that they should go since she brought a kimono for Mahiru. Amane is initially hesitant to go to the shrine with Mahiru because of the possible negative attention from his peers. However, Shihoko insists on them going, and Amane agrees to his mother's request. Dressed in a stylish suit, Shuto compliments Amane's appearance and has an emotional conversation with his son, asking if he's happy he moved there. Amane recalls his middle school days and confirms that he is, and Shuto is pleased to hear this. Shihoko then reveals Mahiru wearing the kimono she brought for her, and Amane is impressed with her appearance. While Shihoko and Shuto get the car ready, Amane and Mahiru talk about their outfits. Upon arriving at the temple, Mahiru and Amane attract some attention due to their unique attire. They proceed to pray at the temple, and while they wait for Amane's parents to receive their fortunes, Amane inquires about what Mahiru prayed for. She reveals that she prayed for good health, safety, and the continuation of peaceful days like the one she enjoys. Afterwards, Mahiru shares her red bean soup with Amane, who reciprocates by sharing his sweet sake. They have a light-hearted moment, and Amane tells Mahiru about an amusing incident involving Chito's drinking his soda while Itsuki watched. Later that night, after reflecting on Mahiru's enjoyable dinner with Amane's parents, they bid each other goodnight. However, the conversation takes an embarrassing turn when Amane attempts to pat Mahiru on the head, and she stops him. Mahiru hastily rushes to her apartment and calls Amane a dummy. The following day, Amane bids farewell to his parents with Mahiru by his side, promising to visit them during the summer. However, he can sense that his mother wants him to bring Mahiru along, which he finds a little overwhelming. Once back at the apartment, Mahiru and Amane have a heart-to-heart about his personality, prompted by a rumor at school that Mahiru now has a boyfriend. It turns out that Amane is the handsome man who is seen with her at the temple, much to his annoyance. As they discuss the rumor, Mahiru tells Amane that he shouldn't have such a low opinion of himself and lists his positive traits. This makes Amane flustered, and he insists on washing the dishes. While he's doing so, Mahiru covers her face with a pillow in embarrassment, making Amane wonder why she complimented him if she was going to be so bashful about it. Chitose paid a visit to Amane's apartment to seek some advice for Valentine's Day. She wished to make it more special than her middle school days when she gave chocolates to Itsuki. However, Amane appeared uneasy and uncomfortable responding since Mahiru was present as well. Chitose asked Amane about his favorite chocolate flavor, and he replied with semi-sweet chocolates. Chitose was delighted with Amane's response and inquired Mahiru about her plans for Valentine's Day. Mahiru said that she would only give chocolates to her female classmates and promised Chitose some chocolates as well, which made her happy. The following day in school, the most popular first-year student, Yuta, is showered with lots of chocolates from his female classmates as the boys in his class look on with envy. Amane and Itsuki briefly talk about the amount of chocolate Yuta received, and then discuss the Russian roulette chocolates that Chitose had made. Itsuki inquires if Mahiru has made any chocolates for Amane, but he denies it. Later on, Chitose gives Amane her Russian roulette chocolates, and he hands Yuta his extra bag to help carry all his chocolates home. After a few days, Amane finally tries one of the chocolates and ends up eating a spicy one. To cleanse his palate, Mahiru prepares hot cocoa for him, and Amane asks if it was made in honor of Valentine's Day. Although Mahiru gives a vague confirmation, Amane still thanks her for it. Mahiru, feeling shy, suddenly departs, but not before leaving a bag of orangettes on Amane's door, along with a thank you note. These chocolates closely match Amane's taste preference. On the next school day, Yuta expresses his gratitude to Amane for lending him the spare bag. The girls in their class are surprised by this unexpected display of gratitude. Afterwards, Itsuki approaches Amane, and they talk about Yuta before transitioning to Itsuki's future marriage with Chitose. Itsuki then inquires about Amane's plans to propose to Mahiru, but Amane denies that, saying it's unlikely to happen. Later that day, Amane returns home to find Mahiru sitting sheepishly while hugging a pillow. Amane expresses his gratitude for the chocolates she made for him, and they have a heartfelt conversation about how much they appreciate each other's help. When Amane reveals that it was his birthday recently, and she didn't know about it, Mahiru gets upset. However, Amane reminds her that she never told him her birthday either, and Mahiru becomes defensive but eventually drops the subject. To prepare for White Day, Amane takes care to groom himself and presents Mahiru with a flower chain bracelet and a ticket that reads, "Do whatever you wish." Mahiru asks Amane to help her put on the bracelet, which he obliges. Several days later, Amane shares his White Day experience with Mahiru at a restaurant with Itsuki. Itsuki perceives Amane's actions as indicative of his growing fondness towards Mahiru. Afterwards, Amane heads back to his apartment where he finds Mahiru waiting for him. Amane couldn't help but think that Mahiru looked like a housewife with her outfit choice. When Mahiru learns that Amane had been out eating fries with Itsuki, she expresses her disapproval, citing the potential for weight gain. However, she quickly retracts her statement and tells Amane that he's actually quite thin. Amane then jokes that Mahiru could use a bit of extra weight, but his comment seems to make her uncomfortable. She clarifies that she simply doesn't like it when other guys touch her. Amane notices that Mahiru isn't wearing the flower chain bracelet he had given her, but she explains that it gets in the way when she's doing chores, and that she'll wear it during her free time. As they continue their conversation, Amane retreats to his room to change, but internally notes that Mahiru really is like a housewife.